Hello, friends. It's Bill. It is Thursday, July 16th, 2026. That's the date on the calendar. I wanted to just kind of put some thoughts out there ahead of tonight's big news bombshell that's going to happen. Trump's going to go out there and spew a bunch of nonsense, and I thought that I would give some things to people to keep in mind as food for thought. He is allegedly going to go out there and say that the Georgia 2020 election was rigged. I think from what I'm hearing, he's going to say that there's evidence that China was interfering. So that's out of left field here all of a sudden. Don't forget about the fact that, they sent in Tulsi Gabbard, sent in a whole bunch of people to try and get a bunch of the boxes of election ballots and stuff like that from Georgia. They were scheming on something anyway. But, his whole thing here is to claim that the election in 2020 was rigged like he always does, but now he's going to try and segregate it to Georgia for some stupid reason, probably because that's what he thinks was the closest race. Maybe it was. I don't really remember. I know it was 11,780 votes or something he was trying to tell Brad Raffensperger to find. But anyways, what I wanted to bring up is that I don't know if this is... It's kind of mind-bending to me. Donald Trump has been in my life, in the public eye, my entire existence pretty much, and he's always kind of been like a joke, within the stature of the people that he considered himself amongst, with the bankruptcies and then just the gaudy gold, everything, that ridiculous hair, just all the horse shit that he talked all the time, here's where I stand on Donald Trump. Obviously, I can't stand the guy. He is terrible for this country. I can't even believe that somebody like him ever even made it to this role. I thought there was a bar, and I thought that it, was somewhat respected by everybody, regardless of how real it was. We used to maybe think that it was held a little more integrity, and it absolutely should hold the most integrity with that role, and the role that the president plays in our country and then in diplomatic affairs across the world. But this guy has had a huge history of claiming everything is rigged his entire life, well before he was even in politics. He would claim that the Emmys were rigged because he didn't win for The Apprentice. When I did some research, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he claimed the Grammys were rigged. He claimed the Time Person of the Year was rigged. Anything that he doesn't win throughout his entire life, and it's all been in the public, and that's why I can't believe that people either missed this or are just deciding to omit it. But, everything that he hasn't won has been rigged. He's never gracefully accepted a loss for anything. Not that I could find or ever think of in my history of, knowing of the guy, But, I kind of strayed off a little bit. But, where I stand on Donald Trump is that, he's just a celebrity. I never really felt that he was all that deserving, but I never hated the guy. I just kind of, sometimes he was kind of amusing. And, I listened to Howard Stern all the time back then in the 90s, and he was on a lot, and the things he would say were just abhorrent and despicable, and he's just there for entertainment. But he would say shitty things, like the whole grab by the pussy stuff that with Billy Bush when he was running for election that came out. That's the type of stuff that he would always be saying on Howard Stern. He said disgusting things all the time. And, did people miss that? Do they not know about it? I've seen stuff surface from back then on the internet, on YouTube and whatever. Do people just ignore it, that it exists? That was his character. And he's always been like that. And then, he went and did that Comedy Central roast. And that, I don't know who remembers that, but it was filthy. Just filthy, you know. And I'm not like a thin-skinned guy, and I swear a lot, you know, obviously, and you know, I don't have a weak stomach or anything like that. You know, I'm not super conservative, you know, except for when it comes to my kids and how they talk. But you know, like nobody nobody that's the president should have ever partaken in any of that stuff. Like, it's just, all of that should have disqualified him before he even, you know, got to the debates the first time around, you know. And I enjoyed watching The Apprentice. I watched it all the time. If I wasn't going to be home to watch it, I actually DVR'd it and then would go back and watch it. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that show. But it was entertainment, you know. And then the executive producers and the people that made that show came out, you know, around the time he was running for president and said, yo, 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 we created this persona. Like, he's not really successful. You know, we just needed this role for this TV show, and it took off, and we continue to pump the guy up. You know, I'm sure most of the money that he claimed in that show that he was putting up was put up by the network in their budget, you know. But, you know, tonight he's going to go on there and he's going to claim all this other stuff is rigged, and he's going to try and stoke new fires and create new divisions between people. And it's time that everybody just kind of sees this for what it is. You know, this is a dude backed into the corner. He's got nowhere to go good at this point for anything. He's trying to keep this racket going as long as he possibly can. People, for the most part, I think have woke up, except for a certain percentage of people that, you know, just still are clinging on to it. But, you know, even those people, I feel like can't really be all that in anymore, because I see tons and tons of video clips of these rallies and stuff that he did, even from the Freedom 250, where, like, early on into his speech, all of his fans are just walking out. They're like, ah, we've heard this before. We've heard it before. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. Here's the boogeyman. Here's the boogeyman. Here's the boogeyman. I don't know. I just hope people are smart on that. I hope that tonight he says something that's just so insane and off the rails that just can't help but offend every American in this country, so that everybody can just collectively be like, this needs to go. This dude needs to go. All of his cronies that are just kiss ass need to go, that will do anything that he says. They've just made a mockery of our entire justice system. The safety of the country is no good anymore. You know, just come on, people. Spread the word. Try and talk sense into people if you're minded that way. Nobody wants to talk politics, and it's a hot topic and can get people hot-tempered. I know that, and it's like, you know, I hate to even have to be this outspoken, but it's like, I can't keep this stuff within me. I don't try to be attacking of people when I'm saying these things, so I hope that it doesn't come off that way. But, like, now is the time. Like, this is the 11th hour. You know, all other things I talk in other videos, and I get into AI stuff a lot, and I could go on and on about how all of what is going on right now ties into that. And maybe in other videos I will, but today I just need to get this off my chest. And just remember one more thing before I close. Before the November elections in 2024, at Trump's rallies, he was saying publicly, you vote for me, I win this, you're never going to have to vote again. You're never going to have to vote again. He wasn't just saying that. That was the plan. This is all the plan. And it's not good for any of us. And if you actually believe in democracy and, you know, really want us all to have a voice that counts, like, this rhetoric needs to stop. People need to reject it. So, let's see how tonight goes. I hope everybody has a good night. Bye.